Welcome to this webinar about which is about after the COP21, what form of involvement for companies. Before starting, we would like to break the ice and just to share with you the atmosphere of the COP21 and a very specific day, which was the Action Day.
Today is about action by all sectors of society. It's about our collective future. It's about our collective responsibility, and it is about our hope.
Perhaps this is the most exciting time in human history.
Ce moment, cette COP a quelque chose d'historique.
The existential threat of climate change won't get done by half measures. It takes courage and imagination and political will.
People now understand the sense of urgency, and we know that we need to act now.
Toutes les expertises, toutes les expériences peuvent être utiles. Nous devons tout faire, où que nous soyons, pour sauver la planète.
What we need to have it is action, movement, change, will.
The rate at which we're destroying the ocean is accelerating, and we need to accelerate as well the development of solutions.
We need to have a system-wide perspective if we're serious about prosperity for 10 billion co-citizens, all with the right to development.
One of the best ways to reduce the carbon footprint is reduce energy consumption.
We have the technology, we have the talent. We just need to harness the will to build a safer and fairer world.
Technology and cost reduction can lead to deployment, can lead to emissions reductions, and can lead to satisfy our social responsibility goals.
We know profoundly none of us can do this ourselves. We have to invite and engage this huge community around us.
Private sector, media, the governments. All of them have to come together. It's a collective process.
No matter what the federal, national governments do, the implementation is at the city level. The people live there, the pollution comes from there, the solutions are there.
La bonne nouvelle aussi, c'est que l'on peut atteindre les mêmes objectifs en respectant les différences entre les pays, en respectant les cultures, en respectant les traditions.
A strong agreement to tackle climate change is possible, together possible.
Partnership for the common good, partnership for the long term, partnership for a better, more inclusive world for all.
It can be not only an action day, it can be an action week, it can be an action year, and it can be an action century.
For those who doubt that we have the political will to change, I ask you to always remember that political will is itself a renewable resource.
I thank you for your leadership, vision, and commitments to building a more prosperous, resilient, and secure future for all of us.
The days of dreams have given way to the days of doing.
We only have a narrow window to be able to act effectively on climate change. We must, we can, and we will.
So this video was the Action Day. It was a tipping point during the COP21, and it was just to share with you the spirit and the energy that was in Paris during those days. So Charlotte Frérot is going to present you the Global Compact, France, but also the mobilization of local networks during this COP21 that was very important. Then Brice Lalonde will explain will give you his analysis about the agreement. And Lila Karbassi will tell you what will be the consequences or could be the consequences on companies and more generally on organization. So first of all, Charlotte, can you just remind us what is the UN Global Compact for people who are not
Everyone, thank you for participating in this webinar. It was designed initially for local network, but we know that some of you send the invite to your members. So, and also it will be recorded. So we just want to have a few words about UN Global Compact, the world's largest corporate responsibility initiative in the world. We have 160 countries with more than 12,000 members in the world. The Global Compact developed many platforms, programs, sisters, initiatives, always to engage more its members and participants and to advance their sustainability. The Global Compact France was the second largest network in the world. We were really involved for COP21 last year, but we also have other areas of work. We have a GC Advanced working group on the highest level of reporting. We also have a SMEs and climate working group because SMEs are representing half of our participants, as you can see. We propose many activities, events all over the year, and especially for COP21. So a few words about the Paris Climate Alliance. The COP21 actually was composed of 4 pillars, all aiming to get an universal, fair and binding agreement, but also to mobilize civil society. I'm not sure all of you know that. So the first pillar was, of course, the new universal agreement that we get successfully. Also, I'm sure you heard about the country contribution called ENDCs. The third pillar was the mobilization of finance with a green fund, for example, and fourth, the most important for us was the action agenda, for which we work a lot to mobilize companies to have dialogue between public and private, and also helping Caring for Climate locally to organize its business forum and engage participants. Okay, then one of the main action of the fourth pillar was the Nazca platform, which where all stakeholders, like non-stake actor actually, could publish commitments, individual or collective. The collective commitments were made through Global Compact. So it was very important for us to highlight this platform. We had a booth on the climate generation area where many participants came. We organized all over the year over 36 events. We proposed many speaking opportunities for our members. And also, we tried a lot to engage other local networks in our work. So over the year, we worked with 25 local networks. So our work with local networks, 2 months before COP21, we sent to all local network a presentation to explain how you could be involved and involve your members. So we talk about the Nazca platform. At the end, we had a lot of commitment on this platform, 10,000 and 800. So of course we can say how many of these commitments are coming from the Global Compact, but anyway, it's a good amount of commitments. Then we propose you to interact with us on social network, to organize event with us, or to help you organize side event. For the local action session during the day 1 of Caring for Climate Business Forum, we successfully worked with 6 networks, which was really interesting. This session, maybe Lila can talk about it, I don't know, but was aimed to highlight the work of Global Compact local network on the ground with their companies, and how local action could help global change. So we had the participation of Canada, of Brazil, of China, of South Africa, of Spain. So it was very interesting to see the project of the other countries and continents. And we thank you all for participating.
So thank you, Charlotte, to highlight the, as Liz Kingo said during this session, the very, very important and the key role that have local networks to bring awareness about climate change actions. Just now to go deeper in the one of the outputs of this of the COP21 is the agreement.
Hello, we're here to talk about the climate agreement in Paris. I think it was first a very fantastic achievement for the French presidency. It was very well organized, and the whole meeting was very well conducted to get a success with 190 countries. It's not an easy task. So congratulations, it's great. I think what's new about this agreement first is you had all the head of states, and it was the first time that we had so many head of states. So it's important because it means that at the highest level, this agreement is endorsed by all the head of governments and states. So people won't come back after. It's an agreement which is a bottom-up agreement. I mean, to the difference with Copenhagen or before, you had the scientists said, okay, you have to do as much as this and this and this, and how do you share the burden? Now this time, it's you collect all the national programs of countries on climate change, and we add it up and we see what's happening. So and there is a focus on adaptation much more than before. So what do we have in this agreement? We have some decisions. Okay, what's important is that all countries must have an INDC, an intended nationally determined contribution, which means a national program on climate change. And in this INDC, not only they have to mitigate or reduce their emissions, but they have to adapt to climate change, and they have to help developing countries. So all this is part of, I would say, of the national program. And all countries of the world must update, reinforce these INDCs every 5 years. You're not allowed to go backwards. It always has to be better. So that's in the agreement. And after, we have a number of decisions which are a mandate for negotiations. The agreement creates an ad hoc working group on the Paris Agreement, and this working group must negotiate on 3 very important items, and much more, but at least 3. One is, what do we have to put in these INDCs? Because some start in 2005, some start in 1990. They have to standardize them, So the negotiation will be, what do we put in these INDCs, and how can we compare them? How can we have the same date, the same starting moment, etc., etc. So that's difficult and important. And the second, it's related to that. It's transparency. It's very important to have transparency, not only on INDCs, but also on the communications of each country. How much do you emit? How much trees have you felled? And that sort of thing. And all this has to be put together so that each country, and probably more the civil society, must know what's happening, where we are. So it's also transparency about adaptation. It's also transparency about financial support. It's also transparency about help for capacity building, etc. So all this has to be put in form. That's also going to be rather, difficult and quite technical negotiations from now on to 2020. 2020 is the date at which the Paris Agreement is going to start. And we have a third mandate, which is a cooperation mechanism, which is probably going to be a revival of the clean development mechanism, some way where countries together can cooperate to be more efficient. So these 3 are very important mandates. Well, this is what the ad hoc working group will have to do. And of course, there's very important provisions of the agreement on the finances. As you know, since Copenhagen, the developed countries have agreed to have financial flows coming from north to south of $1 $100 billion as from 2020. And the Paris Agreement would like this to be done, to be sure, to be certain, to be proved, and they would like it also to be updated, and that we can go further in 2025, give probably more money or find a way how to assess these financial flows to go over 100 billion. There's a lot also on capacity building, on technology, and of course also a discussion on loss and damages. How can we compensate? How can we help countries which would be victim of very, very destructive climate changes? So a very important discussion, but of course all this needs to be discussed still and negotiated. Also adaptation, what does it exactly mean? How can we know what, how can we help? What are good policies for adaptation? So all this has to be done. So that's what is in the multilateral agreement. But there's something else which is very important. It's the work from now on to 2020. What are we going to do before 2020? And this is called the process. There is a process. And this process will be quite a lot of technical meetings. But what's very important is going to be also non-party experts. And this part of the agreement is all about how can we involve in the negotiation, in the fight against climate change, more people than only governments. How can we involve local governments, cities, business, NGOs, foundations, and scientific people? So this is a very interesting part of the agreement, which needs to be fed, to be implemented, and it's not only about technical meetings, it's also about trying to create a big discussion about the best policies, the best practices, how are they replicable, how are they scalable, and each year you would have a summary to policymakers coming out from these technical meetings and coming out from something completely new, some high-level events. Each year, close to the session or during the session, you will have a high-level event fed by these technical processes, by the reports coming from them, by the summary to policymakers, and they would be organized in conjunction with the help of two champions. The presidencies of the COP from now on to 2020 are going to nominate two champions for 2 years. So each presidency, will work together. These champions will work together, and these high-level champions, probably former president or former prime ministers, will work with the non-state actors, with the people who have been on the platform NASCA, from the Lima and Paris Action Agenda, from the technical meetings. They're going to work to give a sort of a high-level event talking about all these initiatives, all these new technologies, all these policy inventions or new policies, and they're going to see what's working the best, etc., etc. So that's a completely new and very interesting process in which business, of course, will have to play an important role. It's not completely perfect, of course, because it's always national, international cooperation initiatives from business working with each other, through the borders is not something yet which is accepted by all the countries. But nevertheless, it's written. There is a reference to carbon pricing, which is the first time in an agreement of this sort. So the door is open for involvement of non-state actors much more than it was before. So there we are. You've got this multilateral agreement, which is also, very clear. You have to have an INDC. All countries of the world must have INDCs, and they must upgrade it every 5 years. The negotiation must work on what you put in them, etc. It's very precise. So it's the first time it's so precise. We've even got figures on the number of gigatons, figures which say we must not go over 40 gigatons in 2030. Otherwise, we're going to be much too high. The temperature will go over 2 degrees Celsius, and we're going to ask the IPCC to tell us how many gigatons we need if we want to go lower at 1.5 degrees. So this is written, and there's an extraordinary sentence saying that in the second half of this century, the emissions must be matched by how do you say, les puits, by wells, by capturing. There must not be anthropogenic emissions in the atmosphere, which is not captured by a sink. And so that's an extraordinary sentence. It means it's very ambitious. It means you must not have any anthropogenic ton of CO2 in the atmosphere in the second half of the century. This is a very strong statement, of course, because it means you have to decarbonize the economy. So it's written. Of course, it's not compulsory. What's compulsory are INDCs and updating of INDCs, but at least it gives a direction. It says, this is what we would like. This is the direction in which we have to go. So all this is a text, lots of things in this agreement. And it's, I don't know, 29 pages, something like that. So you have to read that, very carefully. But of course, it means also that there is a very strong signal given to the industry, to the civil society, to all societies of the world, that for the first time, actually, really governments are serious about it, are going to do things now. So there's a sort of a movement which is started now. But of course, most of what we need is going to be done outside. It's going to be done by the business, it's going to be done by the cities, it's going to be done by the people, and it's going to be done by improving technology, because we don't have all the technology. We can't store electricity, for instance. So we need to do that right now. And there's a huge part now which will come from business, which has already started a lot of things, but which the business needed.
Thank you very much, Brice, for this analysis of the agreement. Then now we would like to understand what are the consequences for organization and more precisely for companies. So we will ask to Lila Karbassi, who is the head of environment and climate change at the United Nations Global Compact. But just before to give you the micro, Lila, we share this event, which was the Action Day. So during the LPA and during this action agenda during the COP21, we would like to share you a specific day, which was for business. And this one of the events was the famous Caring for Climate Forum. So just to share you the video of this special day during the COP21.
More companies and investors are leading on climate action than at any time in history. We have seen the power of collaboration through our UN Caring for Climate initiative.
The combination of politicians from 190 states with the commitment of business is a very interesting cocktail.
The CEO Climate Leaders Initiative comprises of 79 CEOs, many of them in the room here, representing operations in about 150 countries, combined revenue of over $2 trillion, and a quarter of the signatories, which is important as well, are in countries like India, China, Brazil, and Indonesia.
In taking actions like these big businesses not only do their part to help solve the climate challenge, but they set an example for businesses around the world, and they encourage them to take similar steps.
The business communities in China has made remarkable progress in achieving green growth. Working with the government for carbon pricing, 3 provinces have taken the pilot project, and majority of those provinces has been evolving very actively.
Climate change is one of the major challenges of our generation. This challenge calls for innovation and cooperation.
114 companies have committed to set science-based emission reduction targets. Several of these companies have already announced their new goals. The companies participating have combined annual emissions of at least 476 million tons of CO2, equivalent to the annual emission of South Africa.
You are here today to show the world that green business is good business and to convey the support of responsible businesses for a strong universal climate agreement.
we still have time to prevent the worst impacts of climate change from happening.
The momentum that has been created now among companies is absolutely unstoppable.
Lila, can you? Yes. So.
Hi. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening, everyone. Thanks, Pierre, Charlotte, for organizing this webinar. I hope the technology works for that part. So yes, historic agreement at the COP. We're still very excited about the results. Actually, we started the year with a feeling of something that has been accomplished and well accomplished. Two great accomplishments for 2015. One is the adoption of the Sustainable Development Goals, September last year, and then the second one is the climate agreement in December. In both cases, we were very pleased, we were actually honored to play a key role in the mobilization of business in those events. At the COP, in support of the French presidency, we organized the official event for business through the Caring for Climate platform. So this is the video that you've just seen with the participation of the Secretary General of the UN, the US Secretary of State, the French Minister for Environment and Energy, and for the first time there was a process led by France where non-state actors were able to contribute directly into the outcomes of the COP. So in our point of view, there are actually three conclusions, three outcomes in terms of the contribution of business to the COP. First, I think there's no doubt that business contributed to the successful outcome of the COP. There was an unprecedented mobilization of business. Large-scale commitments, announcements were made by companies in terms of so unprecedented mobilization, both in terms of the number of commitments that have been put forward, but also in terms of the level and the scale of the statements that companies have made. And there's no doubt that this input created the right setting for the agreement to be adopted. So here, for instance, big statements by Google, by Acciona, Allianz, State Grid Corporation of China, Schneider, major commitments, new commitments were made. Actually, 2,000 corporate commitments were recorded under the Nazca platform. So that mobilization of business is recognized in the text of the agreement, paragraph 5. There is a sentence on the support of business and calling states to actually help put the right policies in place, including on carbon pricing, so that that support can be continued over time. Second conclusion, there were a number of collaborative coalitions that were put in place. In the Caring for Climate Business Forum, there were 7 coalitions that were announced. These are coalitions of companies that come together under a common theme. So, for example, we had 65 companies that supported the business leadership criteria on carbon pricing. They put a price on carbon internally, they support the establishment of carbon markets, and they report publicly on their commitment. A good portion of the meeting, the Caring for Climate meeting, was actually devoted to carbon pricing, looking at the value to give to a carbon price, looking at the difficulties, the benefits for establishing different markets, and how the future of the carbon markets could look ahead. So first time that there was really in-depth discussion on that topic in the context of the COP. Another example is 115 companies that have agreed to set greenhouse gas emissions reductions targets in line with the 2-degree pathway. This is also a very challenging ask for companies. Those targets are currently being reviewed to see if they're compatible with the 2-degree pathway. And so in each of these instances, in each of these cases, big challenges met by companies, and then a request for those companies that made the commitments to have others to follow them. And a third conclusion is that the COP sends a strong signal for a transition towards a low-carbon economy. So there's some analyses that are put forward already in terms of the size of that green economy, the predictions, in terms of how the COP can actually boost investments into low-carbon technologies, into renewable. There are also some facts and trends into investments in renewables for last year, which were record-setting. All the analyses show that the agreement will bring more predictability, it will stimulate investment, it will actually help unlock capital towards green technologies, and all of that will lead towards, at some point, hopefully, 100% participation from business and from governments. So in terms of the green markets, the hope here is that if you account for all of the INDCs and what they lead to in terms of temperature stabilization, you achieve something between 2.7 to 3 degrees, depending on the methodology that you use. But the role that companies can play on a voluntary basis to complement what is needed and what we have is very, very important. So we hope that there will be a big role for the private sector to bridge that gap between what we have right now, the trajectory 2.73 degree, and what we need 1.52 degree in the future. So just to finish, a few words on the outlook for business after the COP. The Global Compact is setting its new strategy with the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, being the flagship issue for 2016. We actually just conducted a meeting yesterday in Davos at the World Economic Forum with some of the CEOs under the LEAD program, with the participation of the Secretary General and UN heads of agencies and programs to better understand how business can contribute to the SDGs, how business can help work with the UN towards the achievement of the SDGs across the system, across the UN system. So SDG flagship issue for 2016. We will continue to build on the work of Caring for Climate. Climate is a key part of the SDGs as well, so that link is very clear. It's one and the same agenda. There are many discussions at the moment in terms of the mechanisms for the follow-up to what was called the action agenda at the COP, and more broadly all of the commitments that companies have made, and Global Compact stands ready to play a key part in that follow-up. In terms of key milestone events for us this year, 22nd, 23rd June, a leader summit in New York, looking at the SDG and the follow-up to climate 6 months after the adoption of the agreement. Around the time of the General Assembly in September, a private sector forum, also to look at progress made, the contribution on those flagship issues. These are the key events for the Global Compact this year. You may have noted that on the 22nd of April, there will be a signature ceremony convened by the Secretary General Ban Ki-moon at the UN in New York. And the hope is that there will be at least 55 heads of states that will be present in New York to sign the agreement in a formal manner. And the heads of state of the US and China are expected to attend. We know, of course, that the President of France will attend. And so that will mark the signature of the agreement, and then the agreement will come into force immediately after 55 countries have signed it. We're also in discussion with the Moroccan government for them to provide the support on the follow-up to the COP and the preparations for COP22. We will host a business forum in Morocco mid-end of November at COP22, and this will be the occasion for us to kind of see what progress has been made and build on that momentum and show the good trend and the positive results between COP21 and COP22. So I will stop here. Thank you to Global Compact Friends for organizing the webinar and also for the very, very important support at the COP for the Business Forum and in general in terms of bringing companies and local networks at the COP. I think there were about 10 local networks, maybe a bit less, that were at the COP. So thanks for your participation and support. And there are many exciting things that will happen at the country level. We hope to be able to engage with all of you, and we hope that you have climate as part of your plans for 2016, following up on this exciting historic agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Lila. So just to go now to the conclusion, so Charlotte, if you have a few words to say.
Just a few words. Thank you to everybody who participated. Thank you, Lila. Thank you, Brice. In 2016, many local networks will focus on helping companies to implement the commitments they made, but also implement concrete policies and action while continuing to raise awareness in their country. It's the beginning of an enthusiastic journey, and we hope we will work more locally with all of you in the coming months and years. So we must not underevaluate the difficulties that will arise. COP21 was a milestone, but we need to stay focused and push companies, especially the small. So that's what we will do next year for us. So thank you to everybody, and see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.